I chose you 8 to travel throughout time because the future of the world is in peril.
DC's Legends of Tomorrow. Series premiere Thursday, January 21st on the CW.
More people than ever are playing video games. In 2016, the number of new PC and console games coming out will be in the hundreds. Polygon has compiled a list of 100 games that are coming out over the next 12 months, covering every possible taste. Here's a few of the big games coming out in 2016. Uncharted 4 for PlayStation 4 is the story of a man in search of his lost brother and some lost treasure. Since the launch of the first Uncharted game in 2007, Nathan Drake has become a video game icon with his easy charm and ready wit. In Uncharted 4, players can expect to explore, drive, climb, shoot, and, for the first time in the series, chat via dialogue trees. Also on PS4, The Last Guardian is the long-awaited game from Fumito Ueda, whose previous games include Ico and Shadow of the Colossus. It's the story of a boy who's trapped in a castle and he must escape. He makes the acquaintance of a creature called a trico. Together, they solve physical puzzles and defeat enemies. Horizon Zero Dawn is a new PS4 sci-fi action-adventure from Guerrilla Games, best known for the PS3-era Killzone series. Its central figure is a young woman called Aloy, member of a Stone Age-style tribe living 1,000 years after the fall of our civilization. She must harvest, or destroy, giant dinosaur-like robots. Quantum Break for Xbox One is set in a world in which time stutters and shudders, unleashing all manner of chaos. The game's central characters, Jack and Paul, are able to manipulate time and go about fighting and figuring out the central mystery by looking into the future or stopping time entirely. Also coming out of Xbox One is Recore, the sci-fi story of a human woman accompanied by a robot dog with a glowing core. We saw the first trailer at E3 in 2015. The woman fights enemy robot spiders and the dog self-destructs, leaving behind its core, which is then used to reanimate a humanoid robot.
Whoa.
Overwatch is coming out from Blizzard. It's a multiplayer 6 vs 6 squad-based game in which players take on the roles of shooter archetypes, like tanks, support, and high-speed offense.
Your possibilities are infinite.
Mirror's Edge Catalyst features Faith Connors, a runner and parkour expert who knows her way along a zip line. She inhabits a futuristic city called Glass, a place that is suited to high-speed traversal. In No Man's Sky, players have the entire universe at their disposal. It's a space exploration game which lays out an incomprehensibly vast tableau of stars and planets. Players are invited to shoot down enemy ships and be the first to step foot on strange new worlds and to interact with weird creatures. Far Cry Primal sends you back to the Stone Age to explore lush surroundings while doing battle using clubs and spears. But your hunter character, Takar, has another skill, which is to tame and use fierce creatures in combat against enemies. The basic premise of Hitman is to assassinate bad people, but the game is really about exploring and observing other people as you seek the ideal way to take down your mark.
Join the fun!
There are some pretty creepy games coming out in 2016. One such is We Happy Few. The player is stuck in an alternative 1960s England. The population are all strung out on psychosis-inducing drugs. You have to survive long enough to make it out of town. Another scary survival game is Pamela. Unlike many horror games which are dark and foreboding, this one is a beauty. It's set on a futuristic island colony called Eden, where people have been infected with a disease and are experiencing rapid bone growth. Some games expect you to use your brains. XCOM 2 is a turn-based game in which humans do battle with alien invaders. Players take charge of a small squad of soldiers with specific missions to undertake. Each soldier gets a limited number of moves and actions per turn before the aliens react and respond. Oxenfree is an adventure that its creators describe as Freaks and Geeks meets Poltergeist, with a little bit of Stand By Me and the Goonies mixed in. It's the story of a group of teen pals who get mixed up in a ghost mystery on a strange island. The game includes dialogue trees, exploration, and puzzle solving. Wadum is a very unusual kind of game. You take control of characters in an incredibly colorful world, and then find ways to connect with other characters by interacting with stuff. It asks the player to seek ways to do things for others, even silly stuff like blowing things to smithereens just to see what happens. 2016 also sees the long-awaited arrival of Final Fantasy XV, the latest in the much-loved role-playing action series. It's yet another visual treat of complex storytelling set in a vast world that can be explored on foot, in vehicles, and, of course, on the back of a chocobo. Dark Souls 3 is the new game in the Souls series, which challenges players to a series of incredibly tough combat encounters with interesting and devious enemies. Players wield swords, bombs, short bows, and shields as they face down enemies in fantasy medieval arenas. There are some major games coming out for Nintendo's Wii U this year, none more so than The Legend of Zelda. We haven't seen much of the game so far, but you can expect to play as Link, traversing a beautiful overworld, solving puzzles, and adventuring against evil adversaries. Star Fox Zero is also coming out, which straps players into the cockpit of an R-Wing through a 3D world populated by waves of enemies. The R-Wing can also transform into a land-based walker unit. Smaller development teams have some big games coming out in 2016. Tacoma is from the team that created Gone Home. But instead of exploring an old house, you must make your way through a near-future space station on a mission to figure out what happened to the missing crew. What Remains of Edith Finch from Giant Sparrow is a fascinating series of vignettes in which the player takes part in the lives of members of a cursed family. Some of the characters live in the present time, while other scenes are set way back in the early 1900s. Abzu comes from the same artist who helped to create 2012 hit Journey. Set underwater, it's a gorgeous exploration of sunken galleys and sea life. Another beautiful game is Cuphead, which takes old-fashioned run-and-gun 2D gameplay and adds it to a 1930s cartoon aesthetic. Unravel is a super cute platform adventure starring a creature made of yarn who must make use of threads in order to solve puzzles and progress. These are just a small selection of the dozens of games coming out in 2016. You can find out more at Polygon.